Alexandre Desplat. You did the score for The Midnight Sky. This is your fourth film with George Clooney, and you scored some other films in which he's been an actor. So, what has your collaboration been like over the years?
Yes, it has been quite a few movies already since Syriana in 2005. Um, and there's always been a very strong and flawless bonding between us because George's love for music is so natural that very quickly we had this, interaction, an artistic interaction that was just kind, um, benevolent, and exciting. So through the years, as you know, he was actor in Syriana, and then he called me for The Eyes of March that he directed, then Monuments Men, and two others, and now it's our fourth movie as a director. And both as a director and as a gentleman, he has the same behavior. It doesn't change. You know, some directors can be different when you work with them than when you're in real life. He's not. He's just the same sweet gentleman.
Hmm. Well, I know when he approached you with The Midnight Sky, he told you that you're going to have to write more music than you ever have before. So, what was your reaction when he told you that?
You know, when a director says something like that, you always think that maybe it's a fantasy, and that you're going to be able to escape the iceberg that's coming towards you with this huge amount of music to write. Um, but he was right. He was right. I didn't know that from the script to the film, there's a big gap, and I wasn't sure that the movie would be as silent as it is now, and that music would convey the emotions and dangers that the characters are experiencing. Um, but yes, he was right, and I had to compose a lot of minutes of music.
Mhm. And is it true you composed 90 minutes total?
Yes,
How much of that made into the final cut?
everything.
Everything? Wow.
Hmm.
Oh, well, he
I
also
had
has.
to fill the gaps. I
I
had
know
to
there's
fill the
not a lot of
silence.
talking in this film.
No,
Well, he's also said, because of COVID, the tone of the film changed. It became more of this rumination on human connection and the lack thereof. But he also said the score changed a lot because of it as well. So can you talk about that and how it affected your approach?
um, I think yes. I think it became more and more dramatic, and I wasn't sure at first if the movie was a big space, movie with a lot of actions and things happening. But in fact, the movie focuses really on the human relationship and the humanism of Augustine and of the crew in the spaceship. And so the score had also to focus on these exchanges between the spaceship, Augustine rememberings of his youth, the hope that the crew starts to believe in, um, the kind of redemption that Augustine is after. So it became a much more emotional film than it might have been on the page, um, and we focused on trying to make a strong link between the Earth and the space, without chopping the film into entities that would be one music for Earth, one music for the space. No, it's the same. It's the same music that develops and evolves with some big events. When the crew goes outside the spaceship, or when Augustine and the little girl go outside of their base, which is their safety, when they go towards danger, the orchestra that I used expands suddenly. There's all the brass, all the horns, all the percussions coming into action. And soon as we are inside, as they are safe, and that we are trying to understand the relationship between each other's or one another. The music focuses on the string orchestra to have something much more tragic and intimate at the same time.
Mhm. Yeah, I do like, even though there's two different settings on Earth and in space, like the spine of the score is pretty similar. Like everyone's kind of searching and reaching for the same thing. And the score is not a very typical score for a space movie. It's very elegant, it's more intimate and restrained. So, did you look at any past like space movie scores, or did you want to like stay away from that? And
No,
yeah,
no, I never do that. I never go back to. I don't need to look at previous movies, whether I've seen them, whether I don't want to see them anyway, because it's the film that I'm watching that needs me to bring something imaginative, and different. And also by talking with George, we very very quickly decided that the film had to be striking at the heart and not trying to be what it is not. Um, there's this old man dying and this little girl. There's no place there for any spaceship chase.
there's a lot of, there's some action in space, but it's still it's very grounded, ironically.
It's grounded and it's only to give more fragility to the characters. It's always on that. It's not to bring fear or I mean, aside from the Earth dying, there's hope until the end of the film, and the music when they go outside of the ship is just helping the the size of the space around them, or the ice storms when they're on Earth. Um, so it couldn't play anything else than the characters, and that's what I like actually. That's I've always tried in the movies that I score to be near the characters, to be with them, to try and to try have the audience understand them, feel for them, have empathy or disdain, but to have a human relationship with them, so that they're not just actors behind a screen, but so that we can come into the movie and be with them. And it's on that aspect, the film is very strongly built that way, and the score emphasizes that.
Mm. Yeah, and like you said, the score is very warm and hopeful, but there is a sense of doom and danger, when they're outside and there's a snowstorm. So how do you find that balance between those two tones without having one overpower the other or losing sight of the other?
But as I said, by changing the size of the orchestra, some new sounds appear. When we're inside, there's a mix of electronic and strings, sometimes piano. And as soon as we go out, the score becomes much bigger. So you feel a sense of scope, like if you were pushing the frame. The frame becomes larger just because the score also sounds bigger. That's a way of doing it. Sometimes I do that in a scene inside when I want the audience to feel that there's more than just what you see in a room. Could it be a bedroom, a prison, a cafe, whatever it is, to feel that there's more than just what you see. There's something outside of the frame which is going on and which is going to happen or going to take you out or going to elevate the story to another level of energy.
Mm. Well, one of my favorite scenes and one of your pieces is the I think George calls it the blood ballet scene, because
Mm-hmm.
it's outside and the score, it's so long, goes on for a very long time, and the score is so it just goes to different places as things get a little more traumatic for what's happening. So how did you go about composing for that scene?
Well, there's two things in space. We know that when a spaceship goes away, time is running away. The time doesn't exist. I mean, it could take months, a year, and then you hear from on the radio that the spaceship that left a year ago is coming back, and a year has gone by. So that the sense of time is very different in space. And also the weightlessness is something very different from what we have on Earth. So this sense of weightlessness, time going by at another pace, is was part of my decisions in the way to write the film, but also for George on the way he would time the sequences. And yes, the sequences are expanded as a ballet would be in a weightlessness environment. And this blood ballet is very, very beautiful. It's an incredible scene, which again shows how talented George is as a director and an artist. You know, it starts outside, when the character called Maya starts to see these drops of blood coming into her helmet, and the panic that slowly rumbles and bring her to go back into the spaceship. And there's this long sequence inside where the camera is floating on top of the capsule where she's losing blood, and the music had to shift from fear, panic, to this somehow beautiful moment of somebody dying, yes, but in a beautiful way, in a beautiful, elegant way.
Yeah, it was almost like she had like done like all she needed to do. Was like she did her job, and this unfortunately was just what happened. But it's hopeful but sad in a way. It's not like,
Yes, to me it was more like cherry blossom flowers falling from a tree in Japan than blood, you know, on the battleground. So I had to take this.
Yeah.
Yes, I had to take in consideration this sense of beauty, or this sense of poetry, maybe.
Mm-hmm. And well, I know you guys had to record in lockdown and from all different places around the world. So what did that process entail?
That was horrible. That was really, really difficult, because one of my favorite moments, and I say it on and on, is when for the first time, I'm at the podium conducting the orchestra, and I can hear for the first time from this incredible bunch of musicians, my music that I've been dreaming of coming to life. And it's the best, really the best moment of my writing is when I hear it for the first time, and I couldn't be there. So we had to record. Grant Esloff and the producer and George Clooney were in Los Angeles at very early hours. I was in Paris, and the London Symphony was in London at Abbey Road. We had a very strong connection and a very sophisticated organization that Netflix put together. And I could receive in my studio both the image of the musicians, the orchestra, and the sound, the live sound of the orchestra, through the great magic fingers of Pete Cobbin, the sound engineer. So it was frustrating. The musicians were very far apart from each other because of the COVID regulations. So it was also difficult for them to, I think, find cohesion. You know, usually they are very nearby. You know, the violins are very close by. I could not have the orchestra play at the same time. I had to do a recording by section, the strings, then the brass, then the woodwinds, and that's very, very tedious and rather boring, I must say. And I know it's very frustrating for the director, because as much as he heard my demos, which are very precise and developed, he had to wait until all the layers were put together to make sure that the music was right. And that's very, you know, it's brave and difficult for him to accept that, but we had no choice. We couldn't do it another way.
Mm-hmm. What was it like giving notes to the musicians?
Talk back, you know, and saying, oh, we need to change this, change that, modify this, change the bowing, or all these things, trying to find the best interpretation without me being with them, moving my arms, running around in the studio to say things to the ear of a musician. Or so it had to be, yeah, as I said, it was a bit tedious for everyone, but because it's a great band, and we were willing to get the best of them. Where I think we got to a pretty good result.
Yeah, I'm sure everyone was kind of wanting to work as well, and to get back into the studio and recording and everything, right?
Yes, I suppose so. Yes, true. Yeah, true. No, it's very difficult for the musicians everywhere in the world. I mean, in Paris there are concerts every week, but with no public. It's very, very strange. And recordings, very little recordings. So, it's tough. It's tough.
Well, you have 2 films coming out this year with 2 of your other collaborators, Wes Anderson's The French Dispatch, which was supposed to come out last year, and Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. So what can you tell us about those scores?
Well, Pinocchio I think will come a bit later, because it's an animation movie that will take a few more months, I think, before it's scored. I did write all the songs before and during COVID, because there are a few songs in the film. Again, through internet. There was one great session with Ewan McGregor in Los Angeles, in his garage with a great microphone, singing, until here through cables, until Paris. But no, it's a beautiful film that wrote and directed Guillermo, and French Dispatch, that was already almost a year ago for me. And there's a lot of piano, which was rather rare in Wes's movies before, but on this one there's a lot of solo piano. It's a strange mix of things with choir and bassoons, a strange instrumentarium, as we like to put together. And I can't wait the audience to see it, because it's already a year old, even though his films are not dated at all. They're just from another planet. So, as sad as it is, it won't. The time passing by won't make a great difference. I think the audience will love it anyway.
It's timeless, just like your music. So.
Yes. No, thank you. I hope so.
Well, Alexandre, it was great speaking with you. Thank you so much for your time, and congratulations on The Midnight Sky, and stay safe.
Thank you. You too. Stay safe.
Thank you.
So long. Bye-bye.
Bye.